Hello everybody and welcome back. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Chaos is the broad term for a long-running series of cards designed to utilize the power of the light and dark attributes. The first ever Chaos monsters appeared alongside the iconic Dark Magician cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and manga, and today I'm going to be looking at a few of these monsters that exist within the Dark Magician archetype as I continue to explain every card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Let's get into it. Firstly, we've got the Dark Magician of Chaos, which is a dark level 8 spellcaster effect monster with 2800 attack and 2600 defense. And it reads, during the end phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can target one spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dark Magician of Chaos once per turn. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, banish that opponent's monster. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. This card, which was originally released in 2003, was really powerful and actually completely broken before it received an errata, which tidied up its text and made its first effect once per turn. Basically, it could originally continue to loop this effect, causing a number of problematic plays to become available, and anything that can cause an infinite loop is a serious issue in Yu-Gi-Oh! Hence many cards now have once per turn clauses. Due to the general power creep of the game though, this card has never really been considered particularly strong in Master Duel, but its effects aren't actually bad, and it is just a normal rarity, which makes it an attractive budget option that is worth exploring. Its biggest drawback for me is that it can't use its own effect to special summon itself, and as a level 8 it needs 2 tributes to be normal summoned, which is of course a way too high cost. There are a couple of spells that make it easier to get out though, making it a little more like the ritual monster that it is a retrainer, and that will be the second card we look at. Magician of Black Chaos is a dark level 8 spellcaster monster with 2800 attack and 2600 defense, and it simply reads, you can ritual summon this card with Black Magic Ritual. This is one of the oldest cards we've looked at so far, with its first ever printing being all the way back in 1999. For this reason, it's an iconic part of the game's history, and the moment where Yugi summons it on his way to defeating Pegasus is one of the most memorable parts of the Duelist Kingdom arc. However, in the real world, this card just doesn't really do anything. It's all good enough to get out as a ritual monster and doesn't have an effect to go with some pretty average statistics. I can only see you wanting to play this if you're a fan of the anime and want to feel like the Pharaoh, but unfortunately this card is so bad that this would probably end up being a crippling disappointment, leaving you feeling more like Joey. And to boot, it doesn't even have the decency to do anything really bad, it just doesn't do anything. Truly dire. The next card, however, is one of the most powerful beat sticks in the game. I meant to cover this one ages ago when I was doing the Blue Eyes archetype, but I kind of missed it, so I felt it would slot in well here. Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon is a dark level 8 dragon ritual effect monster with 4000 attack and 0 defense, and it reads, you can ritual summon this card with Chaos form, must be ritual summoned. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, also it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict double piercing battle damage to your opponent. Normally, an untargetable and virtually indestructible powerhouse like this might be criticized as a little bit uncreative, but the rule of cool really prevails here and brings us a beloved card in both the Blue Eyes and Chaos archetypes. And it is so scary when your opponent summons this and you've got a 0 defense monster in place, as of course it turns Max Dragon into an FTK engine, but it gains points in my court for that too. It's not even run in the most high tier Blue Eyes lists, mainly due to the fact that it's a ritual monster, I guess. It doesn't matter how good a monster's effect is if it can't get itself onto the field without the help of another card, and as this monster can only be ritual summoned, and only with Chaos form, it makes it a brick in hand and a less than ideal going first card. There's another issue with running this, and it's that it's not as easy to search for as you'd think, as its name isn't mentioned on any fusion monsters or any ritual spells, cutting off options like pre-preparation of rites and fusion deployment. It also doesn't mention the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which excludes it from a lot of the searches in that archetype. One card that sees a lot of play is Bestial Magnum Hut, which can search any dragon monster, including Chaos Max, and this effect is so good in general that Magnum Hut is limited to 1 copy, with the additional drawback that the card isn't added to the hand until the end phase. I've spoken a fair bit about Dragon Master Magia, and to be honest it comes up a lot as it's such a good example of an amazingly powerful card which is particularly challenging to get out, and it's relevant again here as Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon can be used as one of the materials, being a Chaos Ritual monster. This increases how much play this card sees in decks that are pretty much dedicated to summoning Magia. It must be noted though that as a ritual monster it's got to be summoned correctly first before it can be used as material for a fusion summon. Just, you know, in case you didn't know. If you're looking for advice on how to defeat this monster, then I'll give you a quick rundown of a few ways, as it's not as difficult to remove from the field as you might think on first read. It can be banished or bounced back to the hand or deck, non-targeting effects, making cards like Book of Eclipse, Storming Mirror Force, and Herald of the Abyss decent options. There's also nothing preventing it being tributed with something like a Kaiju monster, Lava Golem, or the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode, and it can be used as material for an extra deck summon, notably making it prone to super polymerization, and in edge cases making it vulnerable to the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. It's important not to get tunnel vision if you're up against this monster though, and to remember that it can simply be destroyed by battle. 4,000 attack is high, but much higher statistics can be reached by combining the right cards, and there's nothing that Chaos Max Dragon does that prevents you from comboing off. I mentioned before that a simple attack from Palladium Oracle Mahad will suffice due to Mahad's elemental advantage, and even the Dark Magician can attack with Piercing the Light on the field and win. Now that I talk about it, I realise there are actually loads of ways to get past this monster, but that doesn't mean that it's not a sight to behold within the game. The next card isn't technically part of the Chaos archetype, but is the first example of what you might call a Chaos support card, and it certainly fits in with the exact types of cards we've looked at so far in these videos. Chaos Space is a normal spell card, and it reads: send one light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard, add one light or dark monster that cannot be normal summoned set from your deck to your hand, with level from 4 to 8 and with a different attribute than that monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished light or dark monsters that cannot be normal summoned set, place that monster on the bottom of the deck, then draw one card. You can only use each effect of Chaos Space once per turn. I guess this card is pretty good, but personally I haven't played much of it or seen much of it, which suggests it's probably more of a niche option and doesn't fill an obvious spot in any meta decks. I did have a think about notable cards it can search, and as I expected, it plays into these archetypes, being able to add Bloodluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, and Blue Eyes Toon Dragon to hand, amongst a few other decent monsters. It's another card which isn't bad by any means and could well be launched into high playability in future if a powerful enough search target is released. For now though, if you play this card, maybe leave a comment with which deck you play it in and enlighten me on if it has some kind of edge case use I'm not thinking of. Next up is the Ritual spell card Black Magic Ritual, and it reads: this card is used to ritual summon Magician of Black Chaos. You must also tribute monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal 8 or more. I spoke about Magician of Black Chaos a couple of minutes ago, and there's not much to add with this card. In the early days of the game, these ritual spells really were as simple as they came, just detailing a monster and a level to let you know which tributes you needed to make from your hand or field. When this card was released, its only companion was Magician of Black Chaos, but these days, and in Master Duel, there is a plethora of combos available in this archetype, and the next card offers yet another way of bringing it out. Chaos Scepter Blast is a quick play spell, and its effect is: if you control a level 8 or higher spellcaster type monster, banish one card on the field face down. If this card and its owner's spell and trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Magician of Black Chaos or Dark Magician of Chaos from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. As a quick play, this card is unable to perform a ritual summon, but it doesn't need to as it ignores the conditions altogether. This of course only happens if your opponent destroys the card, but if it's run in a deck with other level 8 spellcaster monsters, then you can make use of its trigger effect, which reliably removes an opponent's card by face down banishing it without targeting. This isn't a game changer and it's completely optional, but it's certainly not bad. And now, Dark Magic Mirror Force is a normal trap card which reads: when an opponent's monster declares an attack or an opponent's monster effect is activated that would destroy monsters on the field, while a monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus is on the field, destroy as many attack position monsters your opponent controls as possible, then if you control Dark Magician, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. Also, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, the first time each monster you control that mentions Shining Sarcophagus would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not destroyed. This card acts as an archetypal mirror force for the Shining Sarcophagus cards, and seeing as it doesn't require Shining Sarcophagus itself to be on the field, it's not too bad. Well, it is kind of bad because it's a trap card, and as a super rare it's not really worth it to be honest, but I can't speak from experience as I haven't really played with this archetype much. I've mentioned this before, but cards like this one aren't really Dark Magician cards. It's just somewhat awkward to neatly categorize everything within these videos. I'm sure that there are people that enjoy running this card, as trap cards can add an extra layer of strategy to certain decks, but I doubt your life will be dramatically decreased in quality if you never craft this one. Next up, we've got another normal trap card called Dark Magic Talisman, and its effect is: you can activate this card the turn it was set by revealing one spellcaster monster in your hand. When a monster effect is activated in response to the card or effect activation of a card that mentions Dark Magician, negate that effect, and if you do, for the rest of this turn, negate the activated effects of monsters with that same original name. If you special summon Dark Magician while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can pay 2500 life points, set this card. Another one that was only added to Master Duel in the recent update, this card is actually kind of interesting. Most trap cards can't be activated the turn turn they're set, so the drawback of being unusable on the first turn isn't present here, and it's fairly easy to get just one spellcaster in hand to reveal. Of course, because it can't be activated from hand, you would kind of have to telegraph the activation by setting it before activating an effect, but I think the intention here is that the card can be recycled from the graveyard using its second effect and then activated on that same turn, due to the lack of any once per turn clause. Similar to the previous card in this video, it just feels like this doesn't do anywhere near enough for what it's trying to be. If there is one trap card, however, that should never be cut from a Dark Magician deck, it's the next one. Eternal Soul is a continuous trap, and its effect is every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects. If this face-up card leaves the field, destroy all monsters you control. You can only use the following effect of Eternal Soul once per turn. You can activate one of these effects. Special summon one Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, add one Dark Magic attack or Thousand Knives from your deck to your hand. This card really is a central pillar of any well-built Dark Magician board, and a strongly played strategy will use this card to its absolute peak of effectiveness. Let's break down exactly why this card is so good. First of all, whilst it doesn't prevent your Dark Magician from being targeted or removed from the field, making it unaffected by your opponent's card effects is going to do far more to protect you than a lot of the cards that we've looked at so far. Its once per turn effect is also a very consistent way to keep being able to summon Dark Magician once it's in the hand or graveyard, and if you have Dark Magical Circle on board, each of these summons helps you work towards dismantling your opponent's field by banishing one card they control. We've spoken about Dark Magic Attack and A Thousand Knives too, which are both good in certain situations and can be searched easily by this. The fusion monster Dark Magician the Dragon Knight is treated as the Dark Magician and prevents your opponent from targeting your back row, and with Eternal Soul also protecting Dragon Knight in return, this becomes a difficult board to break. This trap's biggest drawback is of course the fact that if it's removed from the field, it wipes your board, and this makes it an absolute bullseye for your opponent to aim for, so that's probably worth remembering. It can always be worth having a Solemn Judgment or two just in case. 10th and lastly for this video is Magician's Combination. It is a continuous trap card, and it reads, once per turn when a card or effect is activated, except during the damage step, you contribute one Dark Magician or one Dark Magician Girl, special summon one Dark Magician Girl from your hand or graveyard with a different name from the tributed monster, and if you do, negate that activated effect. If this face-up card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can destroy one card on the field. It's a similar case to Dark Magic Talisman from earlier, where on first read it feels like it does a couple of decent things, but it's inherently slow because of how it already needs to be on the field when your opponent reacts to whatever it is you're going to do. It just wouldn't be any good going second, and with Master Duel being a best of one format, cards like this tend to take more of a hit in playability, as you're not going to be siding them in for game 2. Its effect to destroy an opponent's card offers little consolation for all of this, as it would only really come up in a very grindy game. Honestly, this card is so bad that if someone used it against me, I might actually feel so embarrassed for them that I'd surrender out of pity. The problem is this just isn't a consistent way to rely on getting wins. I mean, you could probably run Kamakiriman in this card's place and get better results. I think the really surprising thing to me is that this card isn't even that old, yet its effect feels leagues behind other cards of its time. Almost as if this card was created by someone trying to sabotage the Dark Magician archetype from within Konami. This is something we'll see more of though. Sometimes Yu-Gi-Oh cards are just designed not to be very good. I guess the theory there is that if there weren't bad cards, then the game would be oversaturated with powerful effects. Anyway, that's all the cards we're going to look at in this video. I'm going to continue next week with the Dark Magician fusion monsters, including the incredible new Dark Magician of Destruction. Speaking of which, I'll also be unboxing the new Maze of Muertos set on this channel in a couple of days or so, which hopefully means I'll get to see more of these cards in real life. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then consider subscribing. I've just hit 50 subscribers, and I'm confident I can get a lot more from here with everyone's support. Leaving a like is also a huge way of helping the channel, as the YouTube algorithm doesn't always promote these. I'll be back next time with part 12 of every card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I will see you then.